Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week. High def, and Kenny's uncomfortable with high def, so so he's kind of like so we've been ironing out. I can't iron out his wrinkles, but we can iron out his technical wrinkles. So
no,
that's the easy part.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that either.
So we ironed out his technical wrinkles so you can see his real wrinkles. That's what he's really grouchy about. So
I don't like it. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
I got to move this over here so I look at you two.
Are you okay now, Kenny?
Fuck off. Let me figure this out.
we got the cameras figured out.
No, I don't figure this out at all. I never do.
What's working? So you're good.
Whatever.
This might be the favorite parts of this podcast.
Oh my God.
The warm up, the fire up.
Yeah. Getting
the technical challenges of our still virtual world that people are getting used to.
Yeah, 3 years in, I still don't like it.
That's just it. That's the funny part.
You know, it is because it made me plug in the stupid camera today. So I tried it last night. I got it to work. I couldn't figure out how to clip it on. I'm thinking, what the hell is this stupid thing? Anyway, you can see this podcast is going to be the two of you, and I'm just going to sit and listen.
It's going to be fun.
You know what? It's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
So am I.
Me too.
Okay.
Me too.
I think I'm a bit of a unique perspective guest. I've listened to a bunch of your guys' guests and podcasts and subscribed on Apple Podcasts. That's my medium to podcast. So I'm excited. I love the conversations. I love the free flow. I love the unscripted. So I'm stoked.
Little bouts of craziness. We
don't
appreciate
get too
it.
far ahead of yourself there, young man.
Oh,
you never know where it's going to go.
Here we go.
You never know.
Oh, we're excited. So we've got Mike Nunn on, and Mike, I actually I'll let you kind of fill in the details, but it looks like you're a CEO of TLC Solutions.
You betcha.
And I'm kind of excited because I think there's quite a bit of technical bits here, and how we kind of connect our world, I think, is what I took from some of your bits, but I'll kind of I actually will. So we've got Mike Nunn on. I'm going to shut up before I take the audience down too far the wrong way. But I don't actually know anything. Like, I don't even know how we met you or anything else.
Good. And thanks for having me. Looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. It's funny. That's probably a good place to start, connecting some dots here. It started with Kenny and I meeting at a BC food and beverage event in British Columbia in the Lower Mainland.
Yep.
And just we happened to be sitting next to each other, and Kenny had made an awesome presentation to the membership, and he's very humble. I get it, but I thought it was my operations background. I love stuff like that. That's a huge part of my background, and obviously still to this day potentially running TLC Solutions, but it sparked a conversation between the two of us. Kenny and obviously Phil yourself, you work with a lot of CPG businesses, and I just started asking Kenny some questions. Hey, do you know what those businesses do, especially on the startup stage? What do they do for cybersecurity? Asking some questions, especially as we get into the Internet of Things and production equipment, and just trying to keep it simple is one of our goals at TLC Solutions. Don't want to be too technical, and we don't want to throw jargon around, because I'm not a technical guy. I don't like that stuff either. So for me, how do we make it simple, easy to understand? And so that's really where our conversation revolved around. And then it flowed into, hey, if there's an opportunity, I'd love to hopefully bring some value to your guys' community as well. Even some basic stuff on business technology. I call it biz tech or cybersecurity.
So then I talked to Phil and said, this is what he wants to do. Does this fit? Yeah. And Phil said yes, and then you're here.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Security scares the crap out of me.
Bingo.
I guess, just to keep, just to warm up the audience, right? In case you're kind of wondering, Oh, this is going to be blah, blah, blah. First of all, it scares the living crap out of me because I just think we are so unprepared for what's to come, what is here. And the only reason anyone pays attention, I feel like, is when you've had a small fraudulent moment in your life. When Visa calls you and says, hey, somebody's used your card, and it's so low impact because you go, oh, yeah, these 3 lines don't belong to me. And then Visa goes away and takes care of it. But I feel like Kenny's iceberg, on cost, I feel like security is the other way. It's like you had the small moment and you go, holy shit, I should probably put some stuff away, or I should figure out maybe where they got it from. Meanwhile, you have nowhere realized that you've probably dropped your pants and you're walking around in your underwear on the internet.
Well, it's funny you say that. Like, it's super funny you say that, Phil.
Yeah.
I hope I don't scare you, Kenny, when I do this, but just kind of looking forward to getting into this conversation today.
You've seen Kenny in his underwear on the internet, because that's
metaphorically or symbolically.
Either one is not.
I think I went blind in one eye. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, not what we want to see. Not what we want to see.
Well, somebody might. You just never know. In the
not what we want to see.
Days. Exactly. But just what people put out there, what businesses put out there. And this isn't, when I share what I'm about to share, this isn't about scaring anybody. This is just the awareness of keeping the guard up and having systems in place, knowing that a lot of us through social media and websites and podcasts like this, we share a lot of information about ourselves and our businesses. So the fact that I can go online and I can find out that Kenny's most days at East Van Coffee Bar at 1670 Commercial Drive, I know his cell phone, his email, I know where he went to school, I know where he went to high school, I know potentially his rough age, I know he's a husband and a father, his son's name's Daniel, he collects coins, watches sports cards, he's a photographer, he likes classic cars. So all of these things are readily
a lot of things
out there. It is.
It's a lot of things.
Again, it's not meant to scare, but when we have threat actors, so that's the fancy word for the people who are doing cyber attacks or phishing attempts or ransom attempts, when they're out there trying to put a plan or a program or attack together, a lot of the time they're using this information that's out there against us, so they can put a phish email together or a spoofed email together that looks pretty genuine, and it looks like, hey, this is my world, this is from my community. I'm going to let my guard down a little because I think I trust the source. So it's tough. I mean, it's not an easy world that we're in right now. I actually was at a cybersecurity event a few weeks ago now, and one of the speakers on this panel, done by Business in Vancouver, he said, here's a cybersecurity AI expert saying, I don't trust it unless it's right in front of me, unless I can see it. And it's like, okay. That brings a whole level of awareness just with what AI can do for cloning voices and taking information and turning it into a convincing attack attempt. So yeah, it's an interesting world we're in right now. That's for sure.
Well, and with the AI portion, probably going to get a little bit worse. I've understood that too. That there sounds like they're replicating voice. They're doing a lot of So the ones where you hear the grandma, it's got the grandson who's not the grandson on the phone. Doesn't even sound quite like it, but grandma's freaked out. They're sounding like they're actually getting close to the actual person they're supposed to be mimicking.
Yeah.
It's already scary enough. And the phishing emails you're always clicking on email. Does this look like it's actually Canada Post? How many envelopes do I actually have floating out there that says they haven't been delivered? Do you want to find out where it is? And I'm thinking, you can find me another way. You know who I am. I don't trust this at all. I just don't trust any of it.
I think they're just so clever. So last night, a friend of mine, I happened to be over to drop something off, and he had sold a computer case, just an old part that he had kicking around. He had sold it to, someone on Kijiji. And then I happened to be there when he opened the email, and he said, what the heck, right? And he was swearing a little. And I said, what's going on? And he said, oh, the guy I sold the case to says it's damaged, but I know it's not damaged because I took pictures of it. I know that when he left here, it wasn't damaged. And he said, and I said, well, what proof does he have? And he said, oh, he sent back the picture and a link. And I said, don't click it. Don't click it. Don't click it. it's, like if you think of how innocuous that moment is.
But why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Like normal people, what would you do?
Because the
You click
emotion is, what the fuck? Like, I sold it to you. It's in good shape. I'll go prove you wrong. But I said, the minute you click that link, like, it's BS. It's not an image link. There's no reason that he wouldn't just attach the picture and say, here's the picture, but he sent you a hyperlink, right? So don't touch it, right? Like, don't touch it. You like, don't answer the email. Just,
well, and the scary part is likely that person, that threat actor, went through the process of buying something from a person just to get their email, just to get a reason that they could send a virus, they could send some sort of attack vector to a person, right? Like the first part seems innocent and it seems normal, but they're using it as the method,
a way
as the medium, as a way in. Bingo, because somebody would just click the link and they'd be like, wait a minute,
innocent,
no,
right?
it was
Such
fine.
an innocent thing.
I'm going to totally click this link and see what they're talking about. Wait, why is my computer frozen? What's going on? And that's bingo. That's the stuff to be prepared for.
Crazy. It scares the shit out of you though, right? Because it's hard to, it gets really difficult. It's at a younger age, you might, because most younger people understand it better. And I don't mean younger, I'm talking like, mid 30s, mid 40s, that younger. Whereas my mom and dad, I mean, they're pretty good because my dad doesn't trust anybody that way. But you know what I mean? But if it's too easy. I had one yesterday come through. Canada Post says your delivery didn't go through. That's not in the world of, wow, that never happens to me. Yeah. Right? I buy and sell shit on eBay. I've got stuff floating all over the place. Click on, so I click on the title of the person because I'm thinking that sounds like horseshit. Of course, it's not .canadapost.ca or whatever. It's
bingo.
Fucking dumbass from dumbass land. Whatever. But I saw another one online that showed that. It said, Mike Nunn at canadapost.ca. And they showed another example, Mike Nunn at Canada. I looked and I thought there's no difference. There was. The A. There was an A.
One was
one way and one was just a slightly different. Who looks for that shit?
I put a post on LinkedIn just the other day around that exact
maybe it was you example. I saw that. I can't remember what the hell it was. It was, and I looked and looked and looked.
Might have been my post, and it was the A.
There was an A.
It's a different font. Bingo. And it's the reason I and through our TLC account that we share information like that, because people need to know. And to your point, Kenny, who thinks of that? Well, someone's thinking of that, and they're hoping that you haven't thought of that.
Well, I know what they're up to because I get that side, but I'm just not thinking of it because it must have been your post, Mike, and I looked and looked and looked, and I thought, I can't fucking see nothing. I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Exactly.
And then I think you pointed out it must the A, and I thought, holy shit. And it's so obvious when you tell me. Otherwise, I could have been there for an hour. I would see nothing.
And so we're relating it to personal, right? We're relating it to our own Canada Post or Phil's example of Visa, and Visa's on guard for us, which is great. They've got great systems to catch stuff like that at Visa. But taking it back to a CPG business, especially a startup business, where maybe you've got a proprietary recipe or some sort of patent or some sort of information that you're trying to keep guarded and secret in your business.
Just a list even.
Customer list, price list.
Contact list, price list, whatever.
Whatever it could be, how relating this back to the business side, especially when businesses are younger in their infancy and they maybe don't have the funds to put all the different cybersecurity tools and practices in place. How are they protecting themselves, their information, their precious finances, especially in the beginning? I know of a number of companies, they've lost $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 because they got an email that said, hey, our payment information has changed. Please send payment to this place moving forward. And people it's so convincing because somebody did the research. They know a supplier. They know roughly what an invoice would be from that supplier. They send a link. It looks convincing. They've got logos. They've got all this stuff. And you click the link or you send the email to the new bank account because your guard's down, because a lot of cybersecurity is about guard up. People are the first line of defense, but catching those things. But again, I know businesses that haven't. And then, well, wait, where did that $500,000 go? Where did that $100,000 go? Where did that
so crazy
that happened to us? Go? That happened to us on a deal from Italy. And the person in the email said, we just changed our bank accounts. Can you just do it this way? My partner who does all that, who Phil knows very well, my partner who does all that, I mean, that's not way out in the world of
There's
change
the key.
bank accounts.
That's within reason. I'll do that.
That makes sense. You change a bank account, whatever. Did all the shit. We waited for the container, 3 months in, we're thinking, what the hell's a container?
Really?
Right? Phoned Italy. Italy says, we never got anything.
You didn't pay, so you don't get a
so
container.
The container's still here. And we said, no, we paid. He said, no, you didn't pay. Someone got into their email system.
Bingo. Got the information.
Spoofed it. And the actual email was okay, except for there was a spelling thing. But again, it was so stupid. Who was going to look for it? It all made sense. We changed banks. Okay, your salt's not going to come until I get it. Bang, bang, bang. Yep, all good in the hood. Obviously, this is legit. And there goes, a small 5-figure, but big enough to hurt.
Well, and you're touching on one of the tricks and tips I was going to mention earlier is when you get one of those, and this is why the more I can share this message, it seems simple and it seems obvious, but the more this type of conversation can get out and people can be aware to say, you know what, when you get that email, phone the vendor. Don't just follow the email. And here's the extra thing. Phone the number that you have in your CRM, in your database.
Yeah, not the one they give you.
Don't phone or respond to the email that you got.
Exactly.
So it's a simple little thing, but just to phone the vendor, phone the customer, phone whoever it is that sent that email and say, hey, I'm just curious. I got this email, totally willing, able to pay, but just want to make sure that this is legit. That vendor is going to be so happy, and they're going to answer the question, and they're in it with you. They don't want it
either because now someone might got into their system. They don't know either. Now everybody's panicking, right?
And it helps them, right? Because they can then realize, oh wait,
sure.
maybe there's somebody in my system because you're phoning me about this, and we know we didn't send it. Thank you for calling, right? So that one little step that could save a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of waste, a lot of security challenges. It's worth it. And it's just a simple little step. It doesn't require a company like us. It's just something that everybody can do, whether personal, whether it's their business. Just having your cybersecurity antenna up and your guard up, because again, it's so easy and it's getting easier to be attacked. So that's again, it's one of the reasons. It's the main reason actually. When I met Kenny, and it was like, hey, podcast, hey, great. More opportunity to share this message to get everybody's guard up.
So let's go back. Let's go back for a second. So maybe tell us. So I think we've got anyone who's kind of listening to us is probably breaking into cold sweats right now, which is not a bad thing, right? It's not. It's really like it's kind of scary what could happen. So, but maybe before we get into all the bits about what we can do to protect ourselves. Do you want to just tell the audience about you and TLC and kind of how you got here? Because that'll probably help as well, right?
Context.
Yeah, this is a good moment for folks to kind of figure out who you are. Yeah.
Great idea. So the tie that binds through all of this is the BC food and processing industry in British Columbia. So back in the day, I worked for a company called Ideon Packaging, now part of Great Little Box Company. And when I was in operations back at Ideon, I had gotten involved with, at the time it was called BC Food Processors Association. I was part of their operations group, their operations peer committee, peer council. I had eventually started their operations roundtable. So it was a different type of peer mentoring operations group within the BCFB. Started that, love that. It was a great group. It was a committed group of consistent membership talking about food industry operation challenges and wins and opportunities. So I had a ton of fun there. Eventually was on the board for BCFB as well. When I left Ideon, I left that engagement with the BC food and beverage industry. And now that I'm with TLC, re-engaged with BCFB. Hey, is there anybody supporting your membership on an IT cybersecurity standpoint to help bring up and raise the bar, especially for conversations like this with the membership? And it wasn't, so was excited to re-engage with the BCFB. So it's been, about 2008, I think I first got involved with the local food and beverage industry. It's a great community. I love it. Meeting all the brand new products and brands that are coming out, and the larger brands still in our industry. It's an awesome industry. I love it. I love attending the events. Food Pro, very recent, ran into Kenny there as well. The events put on by the industry are fantastic. So that's the tie that binds. So my career, kind of taking that back, originally in operations, packaging, specifically corrugated boxes and folding carton boxes. So production operations for that. I've also been in labels as well, in a varying career, and it eventually, as of January 2022, led me to TLC Solutions, which is an escape from my manufacturing background, my operations background. I'm lean black belt certified, so my lean and process improvement background, and it's I believe enabled me to think like a non-technical person, and how does this apply to an operation, to a business that's either young or scaling, or even approaching an enterprise level, but also to approach IT from a layperson, because I'm a layperson when it comes to IT. I don't get the deep technical jargon and how things work. I understand concepts and why they work, and we've got a great team at TLC Solutions, strong technical team, large technical team that has that knowledge and those skill sets. They're fantastic, and I rely a lot on them for that piece. But I like to be able to bridge the gap between the lay people like me, the non-technical, and the technical. So that's a bit of a background into the journey. Is there anything there that kind of sparks an interest? But
no, I think all of it, like, because I think to me, all of it makes sense to me, because it's one thing to have people who, because all of these startup CPG people, they have people who understand like really heavy technical things, because they're all into manufacturing and all these things, but you always need someone who can translate it, because otherwise what happens, they go, I didn't know that's what you meant, right? And the person who's saying it is like, I couldn't be any more clear. And you're going, yeah, but you're speaking this, I don't know what you're speaking, but it's not clear to me. It's all alphabet soup to me. Like, I don't understand, right? So,
and I'll jump in on that, Phil, because one of the key pieces that you're alluding to here, and you're bang on, we kind of touched on it in the beginning when we first started chatting as well, is the unknown, the complexity, I jokingly call it the smoke and mirrors of IT and cybersecurity, where people have a tendency to fear the unknown, and IT and cybersecurity, business technology, it can be such a complex topic. Where do I begin? Like, I don't even know where to begin. What do I do? How do we take the fear out? And a lot of it is just making it simple so that everybody can understand and what it does and how it works and how it can improve the business. But yeah, you're bang on. The unknowns, the complexity of it it's daunting. Earlier in my career, when I first was responsible for IT, back in my early operations days, and I was in the same boat. I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. I just know I need it to work, and I need to be secure, and I need to have backups, and I need to have all of these things in place to protect our business and our information. So how do I do that? And at the time, I had partnered with a company like TLC Solutions, because I knew they had the skills, the tool set, the people to do what I needed. So that was my original journey into the world of business technology.
Can we? So I'd love to. I want to come back to some bits, but I'm super curious about, like, so what kinds of things do you help CPG companies with now?
Or where do you even start with them, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack with a question like that. So first and foremost, I would say beyond CPG companies, I mean, business technology, cybersecurity, this applies to any business, whether you're a freelancer all the way up to an enterprise level organization, a large organization. So CPG, definitely, because there's a lot of founders, there's a lot of startups. It's a great place to start, because somebody has a product idea, whether it's food or not, but they have a product idea, and they start small. They start at a farmer's market. They start somewhere with their product, their idea, and they eventually grow up from there. And there's many components. It's funny listening to this podcast and the episodes, like there's pieces around cost, there's pieces around manufacturing, there's pieces around distribution, there's pieces around packaging, like all of these basic elements. to a CPG business that need to be considered in the business. And this is why I love what Kenny talks about, what I heard him talk about at that BC food and beverage event, just around how are you managing cost and how do we get this to a price point where the market, where clients, where customers, where it makes sense on the shelf. How do we, in this day and age, have cybersecurity be one of those things that's considered? Information protection, data protection, cybersecurity. How do we have that be one of those considerations in the beginning as well? When a company can't afford to lose $50,000 in a phishing attack, they can't afford to have all of the downtime associated with rebuilding data or trying to protect data or recover data, I guess would be a better thing to say. So you don't have to spend the bucks to have cybersecurity. A lot of the time it is just antenna up, because people are the first line of defense for cybersecurity. But for me, having this conversation, how do we relate this back to CPG, was just the awareness, trying to make it be one of those business fundamentals, and rather than an afterthought, but how do we make it be a forethought?
Yeah, because I think all of this is important, because you kind of take that, and then as we move into companies that are trying to build something, one is typically they're founders, co-founders. There's a handful of people doing a million things, right?
Bingo.
So there's a vulnerability there. The second thing is we're trying to learn as much crap about other people as possible, right? Like all the time.
Yep.
You're like, whether we're collecting it, from, thanks for listening to the podcast. How do you listen to it? Where do you listen to it? To, what do you do for a living? Do you mind subscribing and giving me your email? To, we'd like you to fill in a survey. Click this link, right? Like all of those things, we collect stuff, and all of that stuff also becomes a vulnerability, right? Or you become really, really important that I always shake my head, like, because when companies that don't need it ask me for my birth date, for example, you kind of go, why do you need that, right? Like, why do you need that? Like, you could ask me the year that I was born or the decade I was born in. That would be enough. But instead, you need my exact birthday for what, right? So when you get hacked, that means somebody else can confirm that is in fact my birthday, which makes me like that much bigger of a target out on the internet, right? So like all of those things,
but we've become accustomed,
little sweaty, little
to getting things so easily.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so low key. You go onto Facebook or Instagram and you play the games, the ones, you do all the stuff, and then you continue the game by giving an email address or what, all this shit that we just so happily just
share to the world.
Take it. And why?
And again, I something I said in the beginning as well is there's nothing wrong if you feel that sharing a birth date with a particular website or business is appropriate for you. Again, not to fear that, and not to just stop doing it and wow, I'm getting off social media and I'm never engaging with the internet again. Like it's not about going to that extent. The biggest piece is just being cognizant of the information that you're sharing and having your guard up when that email does come in and going, okay, this looks legit, but is it? It's really that guard that needs to be up and stay up.
So how does this education process, like, so right now we've got like lots of people who are running for cover.
Well, because now they're all freaking out. What am I supposed to do? Like, what are you telling me not to do? Do I not do
deleting
email
their
anymore?
CRM, like delete, I'm not keeping all the, like, where do we start with this? Like, is there kind of things that we should be checklisting to try and figure out like how secure you are?
You come in and say, listen, I don't need to do anything with you. You need to just do, here's a 10-point checklist.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look good at the end, you should call.
You can only answer 1 out of the 10.
And you got and maybe 4 out of 10 is the actual problem, right? And remember, because you're dealing with founders and things like that. These are businesses. And yet, if you think they're going to worry about cybersecurity when they don't even do a quick P&L or they don't know their cost structure, I mean, then you're you're at an uphill battle because they're not even mastering those fundamentals, which are the fundamentals of the whole purpose of being in the business. Like, are they even thinking about
and the layer that usually follows that, Kenny, because you're bang on, and that doesn't escape me at all. But the layer that follows that is usually, well, I'm so small, I'm a startup. Like, no one's going to pay attention to me. I'm going to be fine. Like, what do I have to worry about? They're going after the big guys. They're going after the big companies. And there's more and more literature. There's more and more attacks that happen these days that are against small and medium-sized businesses because they can be perceived as low-hanging fruit. Yeah. And there's some basic things, and if we get into it now or we get into it in a little bit, but there are some basic things that can be done. And at the simplest level, I keep saying this, just having the radar up, having the antenna up is the first line of defense. Questioning something when it comes in rather than just clicking that link that was in the email that you thought looked legit. I mean, that doesn't cost any money. That doesn't require any investment. That just takes the antenna to be up. That's all it takes. So that for a brand new company in its simplest form, making sure whether you're 1, 2, 3, 5 people, making sure everybody's aware of that, talking about it on a regular basis, have that be part of a meeting, a monthly meeting or a quarterly meeting or whatever you might be having in your business early on. It's again, the simplest, most basic thing that can happen is just the awareness piece. And there's so much information online. If somebody has an antivirus tool that they're already using, there's free resources online that you can find that talk about the articles and tips and tricks. And I don't need to get into a lot of the various suppliers and vendors that are out there. But if you just search cybersecurity tricks and tips or personal phishing tips and tricks or whatever it might be. I mean, the content is out there. That's the great thing about the internet.
But you know what? It's time though, Michael. You know, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's time. They're running around trying to get that bar into a box to get to a store. They're trying to change a diaper on the way to the market on the way to the warehouse to divert to, you know what I mean? There's all that shit. True. And like it's I guess, and I don't think the fear part is fear's okay to some degree. I mean, fear that cripples isn't good, but fear that makes you think is okay. Mm-hmm. Like, you can scare me pretty easy, and I will start. Like, I have started to do some basic things. I really do check all the email addresses.
Perfect.
To make sure that they're there. If someone says your Visa cards thing, can you give me things? No, I'll tell you what, I'll phone you back in a minute. I can go to the back of my card. I got the 1-800 number. I don't need someone for reason phoning me. I just tell them, I'll phone you guys back.
Yep.
I don't know who the hell you are. Can I have your number? Well, if you're a Visa, you have my number. Why don't you tell me my number and I'll tell you if it's right.
Yeah.
Like, why are you asking me? You have all the information. You tell me and I'll nod.
And because you were attacked, I think you shared earlier that particular incident happened.
Maybe freak out a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, your antenna goes up. So making hopefully enabling everybody's antenna to go up, so it doesn't take that incident, it doesn't take that loss, it doesn't take that attack in order for people to be aware. Sharing stories, it's great. Back in the day, I was part of a ransomware attack. Somebody clicked a link and it starts encrypting files on a server. It's like, so if Phil hasn't had to deal with that yet, then 2 out of 3 people on this podcast have dealt with a significant cyber attack in their past. It's like, it's not an uncommon thing in the world to deal with, and the stats continue to go up. I wrote one down here. There's a website, a company called Tech Isle, and breaches, share this here, for small and medium businesses. This is a US stat. They average $1.2 million in data loss, productivity, compliance, regulatory expenses, and staffing costs. So you put all that together and you go, whoa, I could not afford to lose or have $1.2 million of cost impact my business. There's no way. 56% of small, medium business SMBs experienced some sort of cyber attack, at least one in the last year. Now, whether it was blocked or whether it was successful, but it happens. It's constant. And SMB attacks, small, medium business attacks, whether it's CPG, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's
anything, right?
It doesn't matter. It's anything. So it's just that awareness that it's a massive industry, unfortunately, for people to take advantage of businesses and try to get their money, try to get their data, sell their data on the dark web, whatever they may do with it. Right. But protection is key. Don't be low-hanging fruit.
So if I'm a small business and I'm sitting here and I listen to this podcast and you're freaking me out a little bit, and I'm saying to myself, okay, couple things, like when do I call you? Mm-hmm. And if I call you, what do I expect? Like what happens? Yep. You know, because businesses get funny too, because then they start worrying about price and they worry about money, and you're thinking, yeah, you should, but this one could be pretty catastrophic. But you know what I mean? So like, you know, when do I actually, I start to worry. I listened a little bit, I understand it, but I'm worried. When am I calling you? What am I asking you? And what are you going to sort of, like, on a very high level? Don't you have to get into nitty gritty? You know, I'm not asking for price structure and shit. But like, what happens?
And it should start with a conversation of, what do you have in place now? And whether it's me, whether it's the person on your team that's tech savvy and they're currently handling biz tech IT off the side of their desk, where you have a dedicated person, whoever you're looking to for business technology guidance, go to them and understand, what do I have in place now? And for me, it almost always starts with training and education, because I've said this, people are the first line of defense. So does your team understand, does this company understand what phishing is? Do they understand what a phishing attempt looks like? Do they understand that they can get emails like the one you described, Kenny? It had the logo, it had the link, it made sense, we sent the money. Do they understand that they could get that? Anyone could get that. Happens all the time. How many finance departments? Because it's easy to go on LinkedIn or a website or somewhere and find out who's the accountant at this company. I'm going to send them an email about change in payment terms, or I'm going to find out who the accounts payable person is, because I'm going to make a bet as a threat actor that they have less cybersecurity training than the CFO does or the controller does. So I'm going to target the AP person and say, hey, we're vendor ABC, and please change your payment terms. So just the education is number one. So that's number one. What do you have currently in place from a tool standpoint? Do you have antivirus? Do you have an antivirus program on your computer if you're a solopreneur or you're a startup? Do you have that as a basic? If you do, you're already steps ahead. Most people do. It's a very simple level. There's varying tools all the way up to an MDR, which is managed detection and response. So you have a security team 24/7, 365, proactively monitoring, continuous monitoring of an environment. So you're not relying on that antivirus to just catch something when it comes in, that antivirus that you have to update on a regular basis. An MDR, managed detection and response platform, it updates itself, it manages itself. You don't have to do it as a company. That's what the vendor does for you. So that there's a range in pricing within that. So on the pricing side, simple antivirus to a managed detection and response platform, there's going to be a decent range in cost, as there is with anything. Doesn't matter if it's packaging or ingredients or anything, there's always going to be a range. But what are the tools you have in place, and what would you like to have, and what is within the capability of your business where you're at? Because if you're small, you maybe can't afford a managed detection and response tool. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But definitely start with education and training for your team. And ensure, this is the other low barrier of entry, your data is backed up somewhere. Don't just have all your data in one place, right? Have it backed up, have it duplicated. And if it's offsite, if it's remote, if it's in the cloud, that's even better. But those would be, for me, the two low barriers of entry. And if it's basic, but even if you had some sort of external hard drive and you backed up your data onto that external hard drive and you took it home with you every day. And I know a lot of people joke about that, and that's really simple and that has its threats within it. But if you're a small business and that's all you can afford, then at least do that. Because if somebody does get into your computer and attack your computer, at least you've got data, your data saved in this backed up hard drive. So
still makes me laugh though, because I'll tell you right now, because you make me laugh, because I can see the other one below, because you got to stack this, me, Mike, then Phil. I'm looking at you thinking, okay, you guys are both delusional. First off, when you phone a small company, 10 people, and who's the IT person, they're thinking, who?
Yeah.
But
who's the people that does who?
Yeah.
They don't have this person. There is it's one person that's maybe that just downloads the software into something, and this is what we're going to use, right? They might have antivirus. Like I'm updating mine now because you got me freaked out on that. Even though it said it was updated, I think this morning, I don't trust it now. I'm going to do it again. But you know what I mean? And then having
good job.
So for I think a lot of it, I don't think I really believe that a lot of these companies in the 5 to 10 person, which is a lot of our listeners for sure. I mean, we vary obviously, but I bet you a lot of that group really doesn't have the dedicated person, really barely has the basics, and the basics would be probably whatever came with the computer. And I think I turned it on. But I'm not even too sure if I did that.
And I have no idea when I last updated my operating system.
Well, doesn't it do it all the time?
Yeah.
It
like,
could.
do I have to do that?
It could. It depends on what you chose to opt into.
I get it. But you know what I chose to opt in? I don't know what I opted in. I was like, when I bought the computer, asked me a bunch of questions. I said yes, no, and I moved on.
But Kenny, there's some things, right? I think like where I was nodding, especially around this, is you think of like so us, right? We use a Google-based platform, right? We have a Google Drive, so our stuff is backed up to the cloud.
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's a really simple, low-cost way of like, I have an external drive because I also don't trust anything. So every episode we've ever recorded is on an external drive in my basement, right?
Yep.
But I also have it on the cloud too, right? Like that's actually a really simple way of protecting yourself a little bit at least, right?
Well, and there's the key, a little bit, because that's the one thing that I wanted to mention. Just because it's in a cloud, I mean, that's good for accessibility of data and information no matter where you are. Rather than attacking, getting into your system and into a server that may be on premises or something like that, a threat actor using those links in those emails, those ways of spoofing, those ways of phishing, they can still put something onto your computer that might give them access to log information, which can then get them into the cloud. And once they're in the cloud, now they've got your Google login or your whatever login. So it's just awareness that cloud is good. It's off premises. It's not something that a piece of hardware you have to replace every 3-5 years, whatever that looks like. But there's still risk. There's risk in everything that's on the internet. So then you get into, okay, cloud plus, do I have multi-factor authentication in place?
Right.
And if I don't have multi-factor authentication, am I changing my passwords on a regular basis?
Do I have
sharing my passwords?
Mike, Nunn, TLC, that'll trick them. Dot. Ooh.
There's a presentation.
Are you kidding? Do you know how many people that do welcome 1 2 3 or like password? Like
they
for
do
the
their
love
name.
of God,
They do their name and their
it,
birthday.
please.
They do their name and their year. They do all the things that if you sat there, you look and say, okay, let's see, Mike's a pretty bright guy, but he's not that bright. MN, I don't know, he looks like he's about maybe 1980. MN 1981, 1982.
Bingo. This is the thing. Right? Once they have the information, like I shared earlier, I know when Kenny went to school, I know family, I know some information. I'm going to start to apply that to a password methodology, and maybe I'll break in. Who knows? And there's programs that these threat actors have, and they pound through variations of passwords, and passwords when they are found and discovered and stolen would be my word. They get put on the dark web, and they can go and find these password variants. And once I know one password, maybe I can get into all your accounts. Because a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this in the past.
We all have.
I use the same password on every single login. But how easy does that make it for a threat actor when they find out one password? Sweet. Let me see if they go to this bank. Sweet. Let me see if they log into iTunes. I wonder what else they do with this password. Let me find out, because I know their email and now I know one of their passwords. So yeah, it's tricky. So password practices is another simple low-hanging fruit that people can do. It doesn't cost anything to have recycled passwords. And of course, there's the I don't have to remember passwords. I just remembered this one, and I have to come up with 16 characters, and it's got a number and a symbol and a letter and a capital letter, all this kind of stuff. I don't have to remember something else. Well, what's the risk? And especially with all this low barrier of entry stuff, what's the risk in not doing it? And is the risk worth it? And that's what I would ask anybody. It's not about fear, but it's what's the risk? Right. Knowing that, especially with small and medium businesses, attacks are on the rise. And I would say, my opinion would be, the risk is worth at least having a solid password strategy, having multi-factor set up wherever you can, whenever you can. Yeah, it's one more step to logging in, but again, what's the risk of not having it? Make yourself be not the low-hanging fruit. Let other people be the low-hanging fruit. It's kind of like the old story when you're being attacked by a bear, you never have to outrun the bear.
Yeah, just don't be last.
Just don't be last, right? Exactly. Yeah. So don't have the best shoes and run the fastest. Yeah. You don't have to outrun the bear. So, I mean, it's a simple, maybe overly simple analogy when it comes to cybersecurity.
But I think the premise is the same. I think it's just to trying to tell people, I guess really at the end of the day, there's just a lot of basics that are not rocket science to do. And you don't need to be a tech person. You do not need to be a tech person to change passwords. No. You do not need to be a tech person to check for your updates that I just did, to do a quick scan on a computer, which I just did. Like, this is not rocket science. I mean, I can do this. I ain't no techie. I can't even get the camera to work today, but I can do that shit. I can put a VPN in. I can do, I can do some really basic shit. Can I save things to another spot? Could I even go old school and kill a tree and print some stuff and put it aside? Like, I don't care how you do it, just do something.
Well, and
don't go printing everything in your life, dude. It's okay.
I can't do that.
Save the trees. Absolutely.
No, we're saving trees. I'm just saying there are people that need to do that because that's how their mind works.
Yeah.
Can't knock that. That's their cloud. Well, may not make any sense, but that's fine. At least it's safer.
Even little things. If you're out at a public space and you need Wi-Fi, or you need to log in with your computer and you need to find Wi-Fi, public open public Wi-Fi, it's not secure. Like, it's just not. It's convenient. It's super convenient. Don't get me wrong.
But it's a nice big door.
It's a massive door. It's a massive door. So personally, I hotspot my phone over public Wi-Fi whenever possible, unless you have a VPN connection. Great. VPN, virtual private network, and there's some great tools out there where you can purchase a personal VPN. Doesn't necessarily have to be business or enterprise.
And they're not that expensive per se,
no,
right?
They're really not. And again, the same question, Kenny, you said you've got one. I think is what you just said.
Yeah, I do.
What's the risk of not having it? And when you're on a public network, you're sitting in Starbucks, and unless you've dotted all your I's and crossed your T's, somebody can see you on that network. And if they can see you, they might be able to do things that...
well, I always tell people, if you go on and search, you can see them too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? When you go and ask to sign on, it tells you iPhone 6, iPhone 5, iPhone, Android. You know what? So you're just looking around thinking, okay, I wonder who this one is. And I don't know I wouldn't know how to do anything. I'm not that person, but if I notice it and I can think about it, you're telling me the person who actually knows what the hell they're doing isn't thinking about it?
Yeah. Bingo. It's so true. Right. And just little things, more simple tricks, tips that don't cost any money. With those emails, if it's a questionable email, delete it. Just straight up delete it. And if it was really important, you'll get it again.
Right.
Right. The threat actor rarely sends the same email twice. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It can happen. But especially if it looks like it's coming from a vendor, they'll probably phone, hey, we sent you an email a couple times about paying this bill. Oh, that was actually you. Interesting. Okay, good to know. Thanks for calling. Appreciate that. If you don't happen to call them. So
yeah,
a lot of when you think about it, and this conversation becomes forefront, and we start thinking about it, and people start hearing conversations like this more often. Hopefully, it just brings that awareness. It brings that understanding of this isn't about spending a lot of money on all the various cybersecurity tools and tricks and methods that are out there. It's not necessarily about that. As a business, especially a larger business, yes, potentially you need some cybersecurity leadership and some bigger tools, especially if you have a hybrid workforce or other components. Sure, it's probably good to protect your business and your IP, but especially when you're small, you're right. Talking to your audience, awareness is number one.
Right.
Yeah, just thinking about that currency of information, right? Like how important what you have and what you know is, right? I think is where when you talk, that's what I think about, because I think as entrepreneurs, we're so focused on making things that we forget that, like I worry about this a lot. Like I think as a marketing guy, you kind of go, like right now, this Commerce Life, we're driving driving people to subscribe to us, right? And
Yeah.
like just thinking about like how many things do we want to know about them? I want to know everything about them, but I'm scared to death.
Well, you and I were talking about that on the
be,
drive down to New York. Like, what
yeah,
do we really need to know? So
yeah, because
seriously, like, we had this discussion too. Like, do we need to know the year, the month and year the person was born? Might be nice to know.
Yep.
But realistically, for what we need, probably a decade is going to be enough.
Well, and even for demographics, I'm not sure about your purposes, but having that just to know that somebody's between this age and this age, like for the purposes of the business, that could be all you need.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what we sort of went down, right?
Yeah.
I would love to know if you're I'd like to know your gender, if it's a male, female. I'd be interested to know who's listening. I don't need anything else past that per se. I would love to know more or less the decade you're in, because it can change who and how we talk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Things like that. I would love to know the industry you're in, because it could change who and how we talk. But I don't need to know that you work at the Super Value down the street.
Yeah.
You work in retail.
And answer these security questions. Who is your oldest nephew?
Yeah.
What high school did you go to? What was your
mother's
first rock concert? Your mother's maiden name?
Yeah.
All nice things, all very, very interesting to know.
Flags.
A little too deep.
Yes, exactly. Right. And then for the businesses that are collecting this information, because a lot of businesses these days do, how do they protect that information?
Well, that's the second part. Like, then what do you do with this information? And I think that's the part where the small businesses forget too. You've got all this data, and you may have, not nefariously, you're asking because you're asking, and the person's giving because they're giving. But really, nobody was really in an agreement on how this was actually going to be used or stored. Like, you really have to, as a small business, protect yourself too. Like, you've got people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How are you managing? Like, where are you putting it?
Yep. Bingo. And again, it's another topic. It's another question to be asking, again, especially as a small business. As this business scales, the solutions, the methods, the systems can scale along with it.
Right.
But it needs to be part of business, and we can't let the fear of it or the unknown of it prevent us from engaging it, because we've talked about a lot of simple tricks and tactics, and how much of awareness comes into play, and the importance of awareness. It can't be something that creates fear and then drives a lack of engagement or lack of involvement. It needs to be that thing that goes, okay, I got to make sure I'm aware. Okay, I got to make sure I update my antivirus. Okay, I got to make sure I don't just click on links in any emails. Kenny, your point, great one. I got to make sure I hover over that email when I get it. That sender
just double
address.
Check it.
Just make sure it looks right. Is there anything?
Mike from CanadaPost.it. Well, Canada Post is not in Italy. We don't.
Yes.
You can assume that that's probably not legit.
Bingo.
Right. Just take a look at things. Or and again, at the end of the day, because I do think it's important. I mean, you're not a scary guy. Phone Mike.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. I mean, just get someone
vendors
to help
and business
you.
partners
Mike
aren't scary people, right? So
during normal business hours, because this might keep you up at night, but don't call Mike in the middle of the night.
That's not my problem. I just said phone Mike. I don't give a shit when they phone us. That's his issue. How he picks up his phone or when he does, that's his problem. Just phone Mike, email Mike, and just because I think that's the important part of it is, again, even on your side, you listen to shows like this or whatever it is, and you start to trust people. Now, again, if you don't like Mike, don't phone Mike, but phone somebody. They're trying to tell you that this is important.
Maybe it's a friend that's
whatever
IT. Maybe it's somebody on your team who has an affinity and they're interested in IT, business technology. Yeah, but I'm not saying it has to be us. This was all about just, hey, let's get the awareness for everybody.
You need to understand it, right?
You can't ignore it, especially with how quickly AI is influencing cybersecurity. It can't be ignored. So find somebody, talk to somebody, make sure that you're doing at least the minimums of awareness and antenna up and antivirus and backing up your data and just some basics. Make sure we're all at least doing that. Let's make it hard for cyber criminals.
Right.
Let's not make it easy for them. Right?
So, like, what is the fear? So is the fear with AI with this more of what you were doing, where AI just scours and finds the name and then builds something around it and then learns how to draft an email or whatever it is to go after somebody?
Good question. So I would caveat this first by saying I'm far from a cybersecurity expert. An AI expert, I should have said. My apologies. So there's lots of people out there who are, but some of the basic fears when it comes to AI are the speed at which it can adapt and create new versions of something, whether that's malware or a phishing email or some form of social engineering. And social engineering is taking all the data that's out there and available and custom tailoring something to an individual to make it seem convincing. But even the ability, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's AI tools out there that can take a voice, you record a voice for maybe only seconds, and it can completely replicate that voice. So
I've heard that.
How many of us are online? I guarantee right now, just with this podcast recording alone, somebody could absolutely clone each of our voices. So knowing that's the case, again, another reason for antenna to be up. So those are the things that AI is enabling. AI is enabling great tools, and there's one of my favorites right now. It's called politepost.net. If you haven't seen politepost.net, you can, if you have to respond to an email or send a nice friendly email, but you're not sure what to type and all you can think of something blunt and angry in the moment, you can type that into politepost.net and the AI engine completely regenerates that into the most polite, nicest email you can ever think of. So that's one of my favorites right now. But yeah, so but AI, as powerful as it is enabling lots of different possibilities and capabilities. So the adaptability, the cloning, the using it for pretty much anything is just going to grow. It's going to grow so quick. It's already growing incredibly fast. So there's things I'm sure that'll come out next week that nobody thought of was possible, because there's a lot of very smart people building great tools from it. But there's obviously some not so great people building it for not great tools. So
who are very smart themselves, which makes it even scarier.
Absolutely.
Right. I guess at the end of the day, it really comes down to, and you don't want to sound so old school or like I know how Italians can be, because I am one and I grew up with them, is you don't want to go to the other side where you don't trust anybody either. It's not about that. It's really about thinking. Take a look at things. If they sound too clean, if it's giving you that gut that it seems right, but that's kind of odd.
Oddly enough, my sense is technology is actually going to push us back into more human connection, right? Because even if you're phoning to confirm something, that awareness level, that threat awareness level, it's forcing us to connect more as people. Hey, Kenny, it's Mike. I just got this email from you.
Was that you?
Was that you? No, okay, great. Hey, how you doing? Like, what's going on? Who's coming up on the podcast I should be excited for? This guy named Mike Nunn. It's going to be great. You should listen. Oh, sweet. Thanks. But stuff like that, I think it's going to do great for pushing people to connect again. And that's an old school mindset, but
maybe
it's already
good though. Maybe that is the good thing.
I like it.
Yeah. You know, we forced us to meet at the coffee bar if you really want to chat. Well, I'll meet you in person, or even this way, so I know it's you.
Yeah.
Right. Having like a little distrust in the stuff we have isn't probably the worst thing. We've gotten very complacent since this all started. You know, to give so much information away so freely and so quickly. Maybe it's time to hit the brakes a little bit. You don't have to distrust people in general, but think a little bit. Like, why do they need this?
Hey, can we jump on a Teams, Zoom, Google Meet chat for 5 minutes? I just want to connect with you on something.
Yeah, I just want to see how things go. That's it.
Use that technology. It doesn't have to be a phone. Doesn't have to meet up with somebody, but use the tools available. Just again, start up.
Like it. Mike, we're out of time. I think we could do this. Well, really, I could do this for another hour.
Yeah,
probably like a whole.
Really interesting, right? I just
ditto. Yeah. No, this has been fun.
I think what I'd love, is if you see emerging security issues and you want to jump back on.
You want to come back on? You can use this. We'd love it.
I think that the other one that makes this more digestible, we do fast thoughts every Thursday. They're like 10 to 15 minutes. So I feel like that's one of those places where if you see something that's interesting, that's developing, that we should talk about, that's probably, a really, really good spot.
For sure.
You can definitely come back on a podcast for sure. We'd love to have you, but I think that might be a really, because right now there are some cold sweats probably happening out there. We're probably going to get some notes with people going, I'll never trust anyone again. But as they recover, I think the little 10, 15-minute tidbits will be really, really helpful.
And it could be just going specifically. This is what like the one you did on LinkedIn that I looked at and thought, what the fuck's he telling me? I can't see nothing here. Then then you say it's the A, and I think, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't in my eye because your eye does. Yeah, it fills in gaps. It's done.
One of the comments on that post specifically was, this one got me for $310. And it's like, it may not be $1 million. It may not be $1 million, but
man.
$310 at a time, and that cyber threat actor's making money.
Exactly. It's a couple fill-ups, a couple, well, maybe add dinner out tonight or today, but used to be a couple dinners out.
It's just a plate of pasta now. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Hopefully I got a glass of wine with or some cheese. But anyway.
No kidding.
If people want to find you, where do they find you?
Yeah, a few great options. I'm fairly visible on LinkedIn, so that's a great place to find me. TLC Solutions website, tlcsolutions.ca. Technolojoy is our vision. We deliver Technolojoy. So actually, I trademarked Technolojoy and also bought the domain. So you can go to technolojoy.com. It redirects for now to our tlcsolutions.ca website, but you can go there. Mike.Nunn@tlcsolutions.ca. Send me an email. Happy to connect with one of our awesome IT rock stars. Biz tech rock stars. Those are probably the best ways to reach me. LinkedIn's the only social platform I'm on. I've got off of every single other one. So try to manage distractions, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the we're all trying to do. Or if you need, just call Phil and I, and we'll push you to Mike.
There you go. Yeah, that works too, for sure.
Easy peasy to find.
Yep.
Mike, thank you for doing this. This is fantastic. I'm so glad you came.
I'm glad I met you. I'm glad I met you that day because that makes it.
Agreed, Phil. Agreed.
Sometimes it's just cool. It's thank you.
You never know when you
think. I've run a couple things. Just so you guys all know. So even the audience, virus protection. I did a quick scan, updated the software. While I ignored those two because I was scared shitless of my computers going sideways, and who the hell knows what's happening in my world.
Yeah. Automatic updates, do them. They're annoying, but do them.
No, that took a couple seconds only, and I'm just going to get my other. Now I'm all freaked out. I got to go do some shit here.
Just don't do it during a podcast because it may force.
Kenny.
So you just
too late. Never know. Too late. You know what? I would have shut you two down happily to protect myself.
Happened. And Phil and I would have carried on. You would have.
Yeah, and I don't care. Mike, I would have been at least safe.
You would have been safe, except when you dropped off, you would have missed all the other things that we talked about that you'd be vulnerable to.
You would have been safe.
Then you would definitely be awake in the middle of the night wondering what you missed.
Okay. I would have found. I know where to find us.
Mike,
honestly, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Kenny,
Phil, you stick around.
Love
you. Have a nice day, buddy.
Come back. You bet. Thanks, guys.
Okay,
talk soon.
Take care, man.
Bye for now.
Ciao.
Hey. There's a lot there. We didn't ask him about password managers. We didn't ask him about.
But I don't think it
APIs.
Even matters.
Like
I don't think it
matters.
I think what matters is you heard the things.
Yeah.
If it sounds too good, look at it. If you're not sure, look at it. If you're using the same passwords, go change the damn passwords.
Yeah, if you
you got to do some basic things. Don't do that anymore. If the site offers two-part authentication where they ping you or text you, use it. Yeah. Just use it. I don't care if it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
Just use it.
It's important.
And go on and update your stuff. Like Windows updates. It was updated yesterday, but I figured what the hell I'll go do it now. I don't care. I don't trust it. I mean, I want to make sure that it's okay. Yeah. Get a VPN. It's not much. I mean, they're not expensive. Right. I mean, it's just little things, I mean, you wouldn't go out in a rainstorm without a rain jacket or an umbrella or a hoodie. So it's sort of the same concept, right? Like just be prepared. I enjoyed that.
Okay.
That was good.
It was good. I liked it. That's it for us. We've got to run away.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.